Hey nerd family, and welcome back to another video. So this is Future Dave here. As I'm editing the video you are about to watch, I noticed that I, for some reason, never made an intro or an outro. So I'm going ahead and filming the intro and outro now. We will go back to past Dave shortly, which will be present Dave for you. I hope you're following along. Today we're going to be taking a look at some different controller options that you can use for Stadia. We're going to be testing out a few different controllers across the different platforms you can play Stadia on. Now, there are a lot of options out there. We're just taking a look at a few of them, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at those today. I'm going to go ahead and roll that intro, and I'll see you guys back here in a second. Alright guys, welcome back. I hope everyone out there is staying safe and staying healthy. If you haven't already checked out the nerdcircle.com, make sure to head over there and check it out. Also, make sure you're following along on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Real Nerd Circle. Some things happen really fast in the video game world and even in the streaming world here. I may be posting some things over on the social media that may not make it into the videos, so if you don't want to miss anything, make sure to follow along. So today we're going to be breaking down a few different controllers that you can use on Stadia across a multitude of platforms, such as Stadia on the web, also on Chromecast with Google TV. We also try it out on mobile, as well as on a tablet. So if you guys would like to follow along, let's go ahead and take a look. I'm now going to go ahead and give you back to past Dave or present Dave for you, and I'll see you back here at the end. Alright guys, so here we are going to test out a bunch of different controller options that I currently have access to across the different platforms that we can play Stadia on. So you may not be able to see it very well, but we do have the Moga controller. I'm right now just using it as a mount for the phone, so we can go ahead and test out the controllers over here on mobile. That is one of the downsides with some of the other controllers we're going to be testing, is they don't come with a clip, or they may not even have a clip that you can get for the controller. May not be a huge deciding factor for you. There is other alternatives you can do, but it is just something to keep in mind that when you get this controller for around that $30 price point, it does come with the clip, so if you are playing on mobile, you do have that added perk. We're also going to be testing out with the actual Stadia controller. We do have here a Sony PlayStation controller. I believe it's a PS4 controller. And then we do also have the Easy SMX that we've been using. Now I think this one is going to be the hardest because it does connect over a USB connection, so some of these devices may or may not cooperate with it, but we will go ahead and test them all out. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the Stadia controller paired over with the phone. I did go ahead and pair the controller with a couple other devices that I've been testing it on, but I have not paired it with the phone yet, so we're going to go ahead and get that paired up. It's a pretty easy process after you've actually first synced the controller to your Wi-Fi connection. When you go into your device, you hit the little controller option, hit connect controller. You can choose your variety of controllers. We're going to choose Stadia. Now if your controller is not already on, you want to go ahead and press and hold the Stadia button. It'll turn it on, you'll get a vibration, and you're going to get a blinking white light. If you do get a blinking orange light, it means it's not connected to the Wi-Fi, so you want to go ahead and go through the process that it shows you here. You can also click refresh. If that's not lit up, then it's not connected there currently. You can also use it over USB-C, but when you scroll down, you're going to get your linking code. You use this linking code to go ahead and link it up with any device that you want to use it with. Each device has a different linking code. It does also show you that it's currently connected there and what the battery life is, so we do need to give this a charge, but we're going to go ahead and use it for now. So to get it linked up with this device, we're going to go ahead and put in that linking code. Every button that you press, it does one little vibrate, and when you're done, it pulses a couple times, letting you know that it's been connected. Now, since I don't have a whole lot of games in the library here just yet, I know there's a couple of different games I could go in and test. This may not be the best game for testing the different controllers, but it's just going to be our preliminary test here. We're going to go into SpongeBob, and we're going to test it out just to see if there's any differences. We can test with further games in the future. Now, for copyright purposes, I am going to turn the sound down. Alright, so it did come up and say that it didn't see the controller was connected, so it does give us that linking code, so let's go ahead and try that again. So it does not want to link up with the Stadia controller. Alright, it may have went through. It could be because the battery's getting low. Alright, so we did get it connected there. So I'm not noticing any type of lag or anything like that. I know there's not a whole lot to do in this game, but it seems as though when I press the buttons, everything seems to work the way it should. When you press the Stadia button, apparently that menu, you can't use the controller to navigate. You have to use the touchscreen. That's kind of strange. Controller seems to work over here. I didn't seem to have any issues. The controller does feel a bit heavier, and I had said this in the unboxing. It does have some weight to it if you compare it to all these other controllers. It's slightly heavier. I could see if you're playing for a long period of time that it could become a little heavy and could maybe, you know, make your hands or your wrists a little sore, but I don't know if that's a deal breaker. But I also don't know if I notice anything that makes this controller worth the full cost of $69.99. It's a great controller, don't get me wrong. It's built very well. But if I can get the same experience out of this controller or any of these other controllers for half the cost, I don't know why I would buy this at the full cost. So we're going to continue to test this controller out on other devices, and we're also going to continue to test out the other controllers across all the devices here. So let's go ahead and try the PlayStation controller. Let's see if we have any luck with that here. So we're going to connect it just by going back into that controller menu, and we clicked on PlayStation controller. Alright, so it tells us to go ahead and press the share and Sony button here to go ahead and put it into Bluetooth pairing mode, so we're going to do that. Alright, don't mind the cord here, it just was not charged, so I have it actually plugged into power at the moment, but it's still going to be a Bluetooth connection over to the device here. So we're going to go ahead and follow the prompts to put it into Bluetooth pairing, which says to press and hold the share and the Sony button, and it's going to put it into pairing mode. When you get it into pairing mode, you're going to go ahead and go into the settings of your phone. going to go under Bluetooth, pair a new device. So I don't believe it's actually coming up under the Bluetooth settings here. We're going to go ahead and let this charge for a little bit longer and maybe see if we have better luck. But that may not work for us currently. The next one we're going to try here is going to be the Easy SMX that we have. As you can tell, we haven't used it for a little while. It's a bit dusty. Now you're going to need a few different things to try to get this to work. One, you're going to need a adapter to plug it into the phone. So we have here a USB-C to full-size USB adapter that we're going to put into the USB-C port. And then we do have the actual dongle for the controller that's going to plug into the full USB port here. So we're going to go ahead and put this together. And we're going to go ahead and plug this in. Now we do get the flashing indicator on the dongle here, but let's see if it's actually going to work. So on our device's screen, we're going to go back, we're going to say Other. So it just tells us when we click Other that they may work and to check the device's website for compatibility. This is going to be a bit of a test here. If we turn the device on, yep, it does look like we can actually scroll through some items on the screen. So it should be working here for us. Let's see if we can get down to the game. It may not actually highlight the games, so we may have to click on the game. Everything seems like it's working out the way you would want it to. I don't seem to be having any lag issues or anything like that. Now bear in mind you don't have all your original buttons that you're going to have on your dedicated Stadia controller, but you do have a start button that's going to bring up the map just like the menu button would on the Stadia controller. Some of the buttons don't line up correctly. As an example, it says press A to return to the game, but when you press A, that's not what it does. It says press X to go to options. X doesn't do anything. B says details, and it goes back to the game. The weird thing is that the X, Y, A, and B are the same order they are over on the Stadia controller, so I'm not really sure as to why that would be incorrect, but that's what happens there. You can press the back button over here, but it doesn't seem to do anything. The turbo button actually just brings up the social feed there, and again, you have to click the X on screen to get out of it. Other than that, there's nothing else for you to pull up there. But this option does work, but to have all these different dongles, it may not be the option for you. But if you have this controller, you can get it to work over on mobile, so that is good to know. Now, I have not paired this one up yet, so let's go ahead and go into the Bluetooth settings here. We're going to turn the controller on. We're going to press the Bluetooth pairing. And there pops up the Moga. We're going to go ahead and connect. Seems to be working. And similar to your Stadia controller, you have your menu button there. Now it does say B is to return to game. That does return to game. Y is options. And that does bring you into the options. And A is details. And that's going to go ahead and give you that. So the button mapping does line up over here. I don't know why it didn't line up with the EasySMX controller there. Now you do have this like share button on the Moga controller. It doesn't really seem to do anything for us. If you press the globe button, it does bring up your social feed again here. However, it does look like I can actually close out of it with this controller, or at least it highlights the X. It doesn't seem to do anything though. So it just highlights it, it doesn't actually click it. But I do think this is probably, if you're going to be doing a lot of mobile gaming and want to be able to use the controller other places, I think this might be your best option. Let's go ahead and try these controllers on other devices. Alright, the next test we're going to be running is going to be doing Stadia over on the PC. Now, forgive the little bit of a strange angle here. I'm working on a new setup to be able to move the camera around a bit more to get some better shots, but it's not fully set up here, and I've just got a little bit of a weird angle currently, but hopefully the point still comes across here. Now, most of the controllers that we're going to test over here are going to be plugged in. There are going to be a few wireless options, but I do not have Bluetooth built into this current machine, so I won't be able to do a lot of the Bluetooth controllers, but we are going to plug them in just to make sure that they are going to work plugged in. So I will let you know as we go through each controller here. The first one we're going to test again is going to be the actual Stadia controller. So let's go ahead and get that synced up here. We're going to first go ahead and turn it on. So we get that blinking white light there. We got the vibration letting us know it's on. We're going to go ahead and click the controller option. It gives us the code, so we're going to go ahead and use that code. It does look like it's a severely low battery, so we may have some issues with it. We may have to do a quick cut here and charge it. But it did connect. So it does let us go through. We're going to go ahead and select the game. If you notice here, it does give us an option to share the game with family. So as you can see, the controller works just fine. Now, for anyone that might be wondering about the black bars on the side, that's just because I have an ultra-wide monitor, and Stadia at the moment does not support ultra-wide, so it's going to just give me the standard 1920 by 1080 here. B is return the game. That works fine. Y is options. That works fine. Details. That works fine. Okay, so I guess with the Stadia controller, if you hold the Stadia button, it does give you the option to exit and turn off controller. So you do have that option that I just discovered now. It may work across other platforms. I'll have to test that. And we might be able to find a way to possibly do that on other controllers. We're going to try the Sony PlayStation controller. Like I said, I don't have Bluetooth on this PC, so I'm going to have to just plug it in, but we're just going to see if it works since we weren't able to get it to work on mobile here. I do know I've had the PlayStation controller working on other PC games. I believe it was through Steam when I last tested, so I know it does work on the PC. Let's see if it'll work when we try it over here on Stadia. Alright, so it came up and said controller linked. This sucks because it does the like the splash screen in ultra wide, but not the actual game. For anyone out there that has an ultra wide, go ahead and leave a like and comment down below. Hopefully we can make Stadia and or the game developers develop games for ultra wide here. Options is going to bring you into the options menu. I do like actually, so it does actually, I guess, give you the actual buttons here. So it does say circles to return to the game, and that worked fine. Options is triangle, and that worked fine. Details is X, that works fine. So that is good. If you guys are Sony fans and you really want to use that Sony controller, obviously you have to make sure that the device you're using has Bluetooth, or you're going to have to keep it plugged in. But it does actually map it and change it to that controller you're using. So it does actually have the icons. I did not think it was going to do that. So that does bring us back to, and we're going to test it again on here, but it brings us back to the EasySMX, how it showed the correct icons on the screen, X, Y, A, and B, but they didn't do what they said they were going to do. So that's kind of strange that it didn't map that correctly when the buttons are the same as the Stadia controller and the Moga controller. But it is cool to see that if you use a Sony controller, that it does actually map those buttons or shapes there for you. So that's good to know. If you hit the share button, it doesn't seem to do anything. The PlayStation button does bring up the social feed here. And if you press and hold the PlayStation button, you can actually get exit game, so that is good to know. So the PlayStation controller may not be a bad option. We're going to go ahead and go over to the EasySMX. Now, for that, you do need the dongle. So it does make it wireless. It's just a little bit different. You don't use it over Bluetooth. It uses that dongle. So we're going to go ahead and plug that in. Now, I've used this obviously on the PC before, so we shouldn't have any issues, but let's just make sure that it actually does work when you're using it with Stadia. It did pop up there a moment ago and said that the controller was linked, so it looks like we should be okay to go. Alright, it seems as though everything appears to work. The start button is going to bring up the menu, and you do have A, return to game, and that does not do what it's supposed to. You have X is options, and that does not do what it's supposed to. I don't know why the mapping is incorrect on here. I have it lined up correctly. That may or may not be a deal breaker for you if you really like this controller, but that is just I guess a flaw or downfall if you are using this one here, but it may not be a deal breaker for you. Let's see if we can get it to exit. If we press and hold the globe button here, yep, alright, it does give you the option to exit. So we did at least solve that over here on PC. I will have to just test to see if it works the same across other devices as well. So it's definitely playable. There's just a few weird quirks with it there, but you know, if you can use this controller for most of your gameplay and you have a few weird quirks here and there, it's not horrible. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and try the Moga. Now I'm keeping the clip on there just because I don't feel like taking it off right now, but again, we can use this as Bluetooth. If I had a Bluetooth adapter for the PC, I would go ahead and use that. Unfortunately, we do not, so we're going to go ahead and plug it in. Now, something to keep in mind if you are going to use this controller as a plugged-in controller is that you do have to use the cord that comes with it, as it's got a special notch, and it only fits in there with that cord, so you want to make sure to not lose the cord. It is a micro USB to full-size USB cord or cable, but you have to use the one supplied, so try your best to not lose that cord. You have to switch the controller over to USB mode here. And let's see if it's going to work. Now it looks like when I plugged it in, it tried to bring up Steam here, but it didn't say that the controller connected like the other controllers did. Alright, so at least right off the bat, it's not plug and play like the other controllers I plugged in. They just picked up automatically and played, but this is not giving me any plug and play here. So let's go ahead and exit. Alright, we're just going to give a Steam game a shot here, just because when I plugged in the controller it did bring up Steam. So we're going to see if this controller will plug and play with Steam here. It does not look like it. So it looks like that the Moga controller, although it's very great for what it can do, I feel like it may have some hindrances here. If you're going to be doing a lot of mobile gaming and you want to be able to, you know, use this for Xbox and a few other things, then it might be a good option for you. But as far as a easy plug and play ability over on the PC, it seems like it falls a bit short. I'm going to continue to test this and try to get this to work on PC, and I will make a future update video if I was able to get that to work, to be able to continue using this with more devices. But it seems like this may not be the best option for if you want to use it across a bunch of different devices, at least as far as PC goes. Alright, so now we're going to try it out over on the Chromecast with Google TV to see how it works there. Now we have tried out a few of the controllers here. Now, I should already have the Stadia controller paired over here because it was one of the first devices I paired it up with, so it should still be paired up, but let's go ahead and take a look. Now, you may not run into this issue like I did, but because I'm testing everything here, I left my Chrome tab on my PC open with Stadia still open there. So it was connected over there, so it was trying to do things over there. So when I was trying to link it back over here again, it was giving me some issues. I closed out of that Chrome tab. I had to refresh it over here, and as soon as I put in that link code, it did go ahead and reconnect. So there might be some further testing there to figure out, as long as you're closed out and you go to a device you've had it previously connected with, if it's going to reconnect automatically or if you have to relink it every time. So I'll kind of test that out going forward, but I was able to pretty easily, after I figured out the issue, reconnect it again, and we're back again working again here. Now, as you can see, it's got a half a battery. I've only charged it for maybe about 10 or 15 minutes and it's got that half battery, so it seems like it charges pretty quickly. So, as we would have assumed, everything seems to work according to plan. We can go into all the different menus. So, you know, using the Stadia controller, of course, you're going to have the best experience across all the different devices because it's meant for what it's meant for. It just depends on if you're going to have to pay that high price for it or if you're able to get it for a discount. But, of course, it's going to work for us. Let's go ahead and hold that button down, and it looks like we can go ahead and exit the game. So, we do now know that that is your way of exiting games if they don't have an exit built into the actual menu of the game. So I'm going to assume that's a feature that Stadia had put in there if a game doesn't have the exit to hold it down to be able to exit. So I will give props to Stadia for making sure to include that for those games that don't have that exit menu, since that was one of my pet peeves that is no longer an issue. We're going to go ahead and try the Sony PlayStation controller and see if we have any luck there. Now, we are going to have to exit the game and go into the Bluetooth to get it connected here. Battery is about to die, so I will be right back. Alright guys, welcome back. Sorry about that. So, I did go into the settings. We put the Sony PlayStation controller into pairing mode here, and I went to search for accessories. It does come up and say wireless controller. So let's go ahead and pair that. And as you can see on the controller, it did pair it there. And now we can go ahead and use it. So here's another good sign with a PlayStation controller. Now it does seem like it's a little jumpy here, so I don't know how that's going to affect some of the gameplay here, but let's go ahead and back out of the settings. And let's go back into Stadia. Now, if it makes a difference, what I will tell you is when I exited Stadia to be able to get into the settings for the Bluetooth here to pair this controller up, it did vibrate the Stadia controller, and it now looks like it's basically in like sleep mode. It's no longer connected here, so my mind thought is I should be able to go to another device, pull it up, and as long as it's linked, it should play on there. So we will test that theory here, but it does disconnect as soon as you exit the Stadia application that you're using on whatever device it is. Let's go ahead and see how this PlayStation controller is going to work here for us. Hopefully it's just like over on the PC, where it shows the triangle, square, circle, and X here. So far, so good. When you hit options, you get circle, triangle, and X. And let's see if they all work according to plan. And they do. The share button still doesn't do anything, and pressing the touchpad doesn't seem to do anything either. So far it works pretty much the same as it did over on PC. And if we go ahead and press and hold the Sony button, it gives us the option to exit the game. So awesome. So far this Sony controller is looking pretty good, but we do have to get it to work over on mobile for it to be the perfect controller. Now for us to get the Easy SMX to possibly work on here, remember it's the dongle. So right now I don't have the setup to plug the USB drive in, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here for just a moment. I'm going to get everything set up so I will have the ability to plug in a USB device, and we're going to go ahead and see if it's going to work. I'll be right back. Alright, our Chromecast is just coming back here. We have our dongle. We're going to go ahead and plug it into the USB port. We did get the flashing red indicator on there, letting us know it was plugged in. Let's go ahead and turn the controller on. Now it does give us an additional LED on here that we don't normally get, so it might not be working fully here. Alright, unfortunately it looks like the Easy SMX is not going to work over here, at least not without some tweaking. When you plug the dongle in, it puts two LEDs up here as if player 1, player 2, instead of just one, so it doesn't seem like it wants to work right away. And since we're going for ease of use, we're going to go ahead and say that this one is not going to easily work with at least with the Chromecast here. It may have another device that it does work with, but we're testing it with the Chromecast here today. So unfortunately that's not going to work. And lastly, we have the Moga controller, which was previously connected with this Chromecast, so we shouldn't have any issues with it, but let's go ahead and give it another shot. So we want to make sure it's in the Bluetooth mode. We're going to go ahead and turn it on. The controller is now on. Let's just see if it automatically pairs again here. It does not look like it's auto paired, so let's go in and take a look. And there we have it paired up again. Let's go ahead and pull up the game. And we do already know that this does work in USB mode with the Chromecast here because we did use that in our previous testing. So we do know this controller works for this. What we're looking for this time around is to see if we have the exit option in the menu from holding the globe button, which I believe we should. But we just want to find out for certainty. Oop. So when you hit the button here, of course you have return to game is B, options, so all that works good. If you press and hold the globe button, if you press and hold the globe button, you do get exit game. Very good. So everything with the Moga controller over here does work flawlessly. We don't have any issues with it there. Now the last thing for us to really test is similar to what we've been doing. I do have my tablet here, so since you can't install the Stadia app over there as of yet, you are going to be running it on a Chrome browser, or a browser for that matter. Similar as to how I'm doing on the PC, but the difference is that the tablet does have the Bluetooth built in, so it is a little bit different. It's similar to how we're doing it over with the phone, except that we're not running it on the web browser, and it's similar to how we're doing it on the PC, but we're using Bluetooth. So it is slightly different, so we are going to go ahead and run the tests on there as well. The other thing is I do want to circle back and try the PlayStation controller back over on the phone. Since it does have the Bluetooth built in, I want to see if it'll connect. First I'm going to try to see if it's going to connect over to the tablet and see if that gives us a better answer. The PlayStation controller is pretty close to being the perfect controller besides the Stadia controller without having some of those issues. So let's take a look and see if we can get that to connect. Alright, just in an effort to speed this video along, I'm not going to film me doing it over here on the tablet. I'm just going to give you guys a quick play-by-play as to what's happening. So I was able to get the Bluetooth to connect to the PlayStation controller on the tablet, so we do have that connected, so step one is complete. And as I pulled up the browser page for Stadia, it did say controller is linked, and I'm able to use the PlayStation controller to navigate through. I'm going to assume when I go into the game it's going to work flawlessly with the buttons, but let's just go in just to make sure. So, good news is that everything worked according to plan, as it has worked on all the other devices. When we went into the main menu, there was the button mapping for the PlayStation buttons, and we were able to use the Sony button here to exit the game, so everything worked according to plan. I am going to right now pause from using it on the tablet and just try it back over on the phone just to see if we were maybe having some issues connecting the Bluetooth previously, since it should work the same as it is over on the tablet. Alright, so first step has been completed. We were able to get the Bluetooth to pair over with the controller from the phone. So we do have that linked up. We're currently going into the game right now to see if everything's going to go according to plan. So I think before, maybe we just didn't have enough battery life in the controller and it was just not giving us a good experience. But so far it seems as though the PlayStation controller might be one of our better options. It immediately connected up with it. Now, it does have a minor flaw. When you press the PlayStation button, it does bring up the option to exit or resume the game as we've seen, but it seems as though, although you can select either resume or exit game, it doesn't seem as though the X button is actually letting you select it, so you have to use the touchscreen to select it. I guess if you're playing on mobile, you should be close enough to your phone that that shouldn't be a huge deal breaker for you. As long as you can bring up that exit game and just select it with your finger, I guess it's not a huge deal breaker, but everything else seems like it works the same. So definitely good news as far as the Sony controller goes. Heading back over to the tablet here. I previously was not able to get the Moga controller to work on the tablet, so let's go ahead and give it another go. We're going to go into the Bluetooth settings here. Alright, I was successfully able to get it to connect to Bluetooth here. However, when you go into Stadia, it doesn't seem like it's working here. Let me refresh that browser here. So you might be able to use the Moga controller for some other things on the tablet, but it doesn't seem like it works in Stadia. Let's just see what happens if we try to play the game. Alright, so it does not seem like the Moga controller is working over here. Now, again, there might be some tweaks and some ways to get it to work because it did pair up over Bluetooth, and I could probably plug it in over USB and we could probably get it to work. But seeing as how we couldn't get it to work over USB on the PC, we may have some similar USB issues since I can't get it to work over a Bluetooth connection without having to fiddle with it too much. We're going to go ahead and say that the Moga is not working over here on this tablet either. It's very peculiar because it does work when we're doing it with Android over on the phone, but it is running off of the Stadia app versus running in the browser. So it could just be a limitation with this Moga controller working in the browser, since we were unable to get it to work over on PC in the browser and now over on the tablet in the browser. So we know that it works over Bluetooth when it's going through the app on the phone, so it might just be a browser limitation. I can take a further look into that in the future, but as far as us wanting to have a quick working controller, I don't think it's going to be Moga going forward. Now we're going to try the Easy SMX. We're going to obviously have to use the dongle again for this one, so we're going to use the adapter here and plug it into the USB-C port. We do immediately get the flashing red light. Let's go ahead and turn the controller on. And immediately we do get those two red lights, just like we did when we plugged it in over on the Chromecast here. So something tells me it's probably not going to work. But since we want some plug-and-play ability and make it easy here, we're going to go ahead and say that this is not going to work for this either. So here's where we currently stand. Of course, we know that the Stadia controller is meant for Stadia, so it's going to work across all platforms and be pretty easy. We just know that there are a few different issues as far as if you do want to continue to use it across different devices. At least in my experience, it gave us a few minor issues of trying to connect it and then disconnect it and reconnect it. I'll test that a bit further going forward and make a future video to see if it's just a problem that I'm currently experiencing and if there's a way to bypass that. So this is going to be your best all-around experience, but it's also the highest priced controller that we're looking at. So unless you get it for that $30 price point, or you just don't care how much you pay for it, you're going to pay the $70 price tag for that. Our runner-up, which actually surprised me, is going to be the Sony PS4 Controller. It gave the best all-around experience, whether we're using it wired or wirelessly. It links up pretty quickly to any Bluetooth device and is found as soon as you go into Stadia, and it maps the buttons correctly for you. The only downfall is you are going to lose with any of these other controllers some of that shareability function as far as taking screenshots and things like that. It doesn't seem like you have the option built in. That could be something that they update with a future software update, but as of now, you do lose a few of those functions, but everything else seems like it still works. And to me, the PlayStation controller is a lighter controller, so if you don't want a heavy controller, but you still want something that's got great build quality and works for most devices, I think it's going to be the Sony PS4 controller. If you can pick one up for cheap, definitely I think it's going to be the best option for you. We didn't have any issues as far as using it over on mobile once we had a full charge. We didn't have any issues using it over on the tablet, which is using the web browser. I wasn't able to test the Bluetooth over on the PC, so I did have to plug it in. But as soon as it was plugged in, we were able to use it just fine. I do think if you have Bluetooth built into your PC or you have a Bluetooth adapter that you installed, I don't think you're going to have any issues with this. And of course, it connected directly right over with the Bluetooth with the Chromecast with Google TV as well. Now, we do still think that there's some merit for the Moga controller. The Moga controller is a great controller. It comes in at a great price point. You do have the nice clip for your phone. So if you're going to be doing a lot of mobile gaming, it's definitely a controller to pick up. It does work over USB and Bluetooth, but we did have a lot of issues getting this to work with some of the devices. Mainly, I think the issue is going to be with the web browsers. So in our experience, testing it over on the PC, running Stadia in the web browser, and testing it over on the tablet running in the web browser, it just didn't work for us over Bluetooth. Now, we also couldn't get the USB to work over on PC. I didn't test it over on the tablet just because we wanted that plug-and-play compatibility, and it didn't give that to us, but it does fall a bit short in a few of the areas. You might be able to get it to work, but since we were going for plug-and-play, we're going to go ahead and say it's an honorable mention because it does have a lot of great features and it's a great controller. If you're going to be using it for mobile mainly, then maybe you want to go ahead and pick it up. Now, our tried and true controller previous to these testings was the Easy SMX controller. It does work for PC gaming, PS3, and a few other Android devices. Unfortunately, when we plugged it into the tablet, it did not give us the ability for it to function over there, and when we plugged it in over to the Chromecast, it gave us the same issue, so it doesn't seem like it's going to work on the tablet or the Chromecast. It's not going to get you very far. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to the Sony PS4 controller. I definitely think that's going to be the best option as far as working across multiple devices, giving you that full plug and play right out of the box, and I think everything just works. We will continue to test these different controllers on different devices going forward. Make sure to keep an eye on social media as we may update you there. And there may be a future video if there's anything that we missed as far as these controllers go. We may put that into a future video. But that is going to end today's controller testing across Stadia on multiple devices. Hopefully you were able to get something out of this and figure out what controller is going to be your best pick going forward if you want to use Stadia. So, some final thoughts. It didn't go exactly the way I thought it was going to go. I think there's definitely a lot of controller options out there, and I'm glad to see how it turned out. So hopefully you guys got something out of this video. Hopefully you're able to kind of see what some of the controller options are as to which ones are more plug and play in the cheaper range, just so you kind of have an idea of what to get yourself into as far as if you want to play some Stadia. Now we may check out some other controllers in the future, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Let me know down below if you guys have tried out Stadia yet and what platform you like it on best, as well as what games have you tried. But that's going to end today's video. If you guys did enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed making it, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And as always, guys, if there's anything that I forgot to mention, I will leave it in the description down below. If there's anything you noticed that I forgot, make sure to leave it in the comments down below. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell so you get notified of any new videos to come out. You can also follow the links to the older videos on the screen. Make sure to share this video across any social media platform that you like. And until next time, guys, stay nerdy.